Maxwell has now begun a concerted campaign to rewrite history. And in an audacious and strangely compelling interview from prison, she's making some extraordinary claims.
After years of silence and speculation, a name no one expected storms back into the spotlight. From behind prison walls, Ghislaine Maxwell is said to be speaking, and the ripples are shaking royal watchers everywhere. Whispers of letters, conversations, and long-buried connections ignite fierce debate, while supporters and critics brace for impact. Sources hint at consequences, no palace briefing prepared. Is this revelation truth, tactic, or tabloid thunder? What exactly was claimed? Who stands to gain? And why does this moment feel devastating for Meghan now? Maxwell's explosive revelations. The passage unfolds like a suspense-filled mystery, built around dramatic and highly speculative claims said to be connected to Ghislaine Maxwell and the long-shadowed Jeffrey Epstein case. It paints a picture of a story, hidden in plain sight, where crucial details were allegedly locked away for years behind sealed court files, vanished audio recordings, and documents released only after heavy censorship. According to unnamed sources, even when Epstein-related materials finally reached the public, they appeared stripped of their most revealing parts, leaving behind gaps that raised more questions than answers. Among what was supposedly removed were as many as 12 hours of interviews involving Maxwell, interviews that some insiders claim held deeply sensitive information. Within these allegedly missing sections, the narrative makes its most attention-grabbing claim that Maxwell mentioned Meghan Markle by name. Instead of presenting Meghan's journey into royal life as a straightforward story of ambition, talent, and romance, the account suggests that the hidden testimony hinted at a far more layered and controversial background. The passage argues that, according to those familiar with the interviews, Maxwell spoke about elite social environments, where wealthy and powerful figures mixed freely, and where young women were often introduced to influential men. In this telling, Meghan's name reportedly surfaced during discussions of these exclusive circles. The story goes further by claiming that Maxwell sometimes used coded language when referring to people, a practice allegedly meant to protect identities or soften implications. Meghan, the narrative claims, was supposedly referred to by the nickname Flower, a word chosen to convey grace, beauty, and an appearance of innocence within high-status spaces. Supporters of this theory argue that such a nickname fits a pattern Maxwell was said to use when describing women who moved comfortably through elite gatherings. Still, the passage repeatedly notes that no direct, publicly available proof confirms these claims. Adding another layer of intrigue, the narrative introduces Virginia Giuffre, one of the most well-known survivors connected to the Epstein case. According to the account, Giuffre at one point viewed Meghan as a possible witness in her legal action against Prince Andrew. The suggestion is that Meghan may have had knowledge of events or individuals linked to Epstein and Maxwell, though this belief is presented as Giuffre's impression rather than established fact. The passage implies that such potential testimony could have carried significant weight. The sudden settlement of Prince Andrew's lawsuit is also framed as suspicious within this narrative. Rather than being seen as a simple legal decision, it is portrayed as a move that conveniently prevented further questioning and public testimony from high-profile figures. The implication, though never directly proven, is that allowing the case to proceed might have exposed uncomfortable connections or forced influential individuals to testify under oath. Throughout the passage, the tone remains deliberately cautious yet provocative. The claims are described as explosive but unverified, resting largely on anonymous sources, missing materials, and heavily edited records. The absence of complete evidence is not presented as proof of wrongdoing, but as fuel for ongoing speculation. Each redaction, missing recording, or sealed document becomes another reason, in the eyes of believers, to suspect that the full story has never been told. In the end, the passage does not offer clear conclusions. Instead, it leaves the reader with unresolved questions and a sense of unfinished business. By emphasizing secrecy, alleged omissions, and avoided testimonies, It suggests that certain connections were never fully explored in public view. Whether these hints point to meaningful truths or are simply the result of rumor and imagination remains uncertain, but the mystery itself continues to captivate attention. The narrative's power lies less in what it proves and more in what it withholds. By highlighting silence, absence, and uncertainty, it invites readers to question how much influence wealth and status can exert over justice and transparency. It also serves as a reminder of how easily speculation can grow when official records are incomplete. In this way, the story becomes as much about public trust and secrecy as it is about the individuals whose names appear within it alone today. How could Maxwell fish out Meghan in all of this? Where and how could they have met? Let's delve into the details of Sarah Ferguson's hidden gatekeeping. Tangled in royal webs. Now, let's roll the tape backward and slowly peel away the layers of a story that allegedly began long before tiaras, palace balconies, and royal wedding bells. Picture the year 2000. Jeffrey Epstein was not yet the name that sent chills down spines or headlines around the world. Back then, he was seen as polished, well-connected, and quietly powerful, a man who moved easily through rooms reserved for society's most protected circles. According to insiders, Prince Andrew himself opened those doors. Epstein was reportedly invited into the royal box at Ascot, one of the most elite spaces in British high society. This was not just a seat with a good view. It was a symbol of trust and approval, a place where only the chosen were allowed. Around him, the familiar faces gathered. Ghislaine Maxwell worked the crowd with ease. Sarah Fergie Ferguson lingered nearby, still influential despite her divorce from Andrew. Epstein, far from standing out, appeared to belong. He wasn't treated like a guest passing through, but like someone who had already been accepted. This was the height of the Andrew-Epstein friendship. The two were said to travel together, dine together, and attend private gatherings far from public view. These were not casual meetups, but tightly controlled social spaces, where discretion mattered as much as status. Fergie, though no longer Andrew's wife, allegedly remained a central figure in this world. Insiders describe her as a master networker, someone who understood exactly who should meet whom and who should never cross paths at all. Invitations, introductions, and exclusions were said to pass through her quiet influence. That is why eyebrows were raised years later when Fergie publicly claimed she had never met Meghan until after Meghan began dating Prince Harry. Among those familiar with the old social circuit, the reaction was disbelief. They argued that if Meghan had ever come close to the orbit of Epstein, Maxwell, or Andrew in those earlier years, Fergie would have noticed immediately. Nothing, they say, slipped past her watchful eye. This is where the story takes a turn that feels less like a fairy tale and more like a carefully edited drama. Meghan, insiders claim, was not a total outsider suddenly stepping into royal life. Instead, she was already hovering at the edges, known but unseen, present but not fully acknowledged. Some even suggest Fergie recognized her from much earlier encounters, not vaguely, but with real familiarity, her background, her social circles, and the risks she represented. One source put it bluntly: Fergie allegedly acted as a shield, not openly, not rudely, but through subtle social tactics. She redirected conversations, controlled introductions, and quietly ensured that no meaningful connection formed between Meghan and Prince Andrew. It was, according to this account, a form of social body blocking, designed to prevent even the possibility of scandal. If Ghislaine Maxwell's later claims about recruitment and grooming carried any truth, then Fergie's instincts may have been on high alert, urging her to keep firm boundaries in place. Still, Meghan was not shut out completely. She continued to move through London's elite spaces, private members' clubs, exclusive parties, and high-profile charity events where wealth, influence, and ambition mixed freely. She remained close enough to power to feel its pull, yet just far enough to avoid full scrutiny. And so, the question lingers. If Fergie's awareness of Meghan truly stretched back further than admitted, how long had Meghan been brushing against royal life before the world noticed? If the timeline starts earlier than the polished love story presented in 2016, then her rise was not sudden or accidental. It may have been the result of years spent navigating the same glittering but dangerous social corridors that once welcomed Epstein and Maxwell without question. Seen through this lens, Meghan's journey shifts shape. It becomes less about chance romance and more about careful positioning, patience, and survival in elite spaces filled with both opportunity and risk. And at the center of it all stands Fergie, the quiet gatekeeper, leaving us to wonder how much she knows and how many secrets she is still keeping. How could Meghan, with such a past, rise to the royal cadre? Did she even try to erase her past? Let's dive into the details of Meghan's meteoric ascent, from hidden clubs to global stages. In April 2015, Prince Harry attended the grand opening of a Soho house in Istanbul, an exclusive event blending wealth, influence, and royalty. Among the carefully selected guests was Meghan, whose presence insiders now view as pivotal to her rise. Unlike ordinary parties, Soho House gatherings were meticulously curated. Guest lists, seating, timing, and introductions were all planned to maximize connections and opportunities. CEOs, celebrities, politicians, and even Prince Charles mingled strategically, creating an environment where every interaction could shape futures. Observers suggest Meghan's meeting with Harry was less chance encounter and more orchestrated moment, marking the true launch of her journey into global prominence and setting the stage for her eventual royal ascent. Meghan, by that point, was no stranger to the Soho ecosystem. Her connections ran deep. Stylists, photographers, influencers, producers, and well-traveled friends moved fluidly between London, New York, Toronto, and Europe. Soho House was more than a private club to them. It was a high-speed network, a place where one well-placed conversation could open doors that seemed permanently closed to outsiders. After Istanbul, observers noticed something striking. Meghan's public image appeared to shift almost overnight. She became increasingly visible in humanitarian spaces. Invitations to exclusive circles multiplied. Her proximity to powerful people grew sharper and more focused. To some watching from the sidelines, the speed felt unusual. The transition seemed almost too smooth, too perfectly timed. As one industry insider later joked, she didn't stumble into that world. She was guided straight through the front door. That perception raises questions many still whisper about today. Who helped shape that Istanbul introduction? Who decided which faces should be in that room at that exact moment? And why do some of the same social and philanthropic networks keep appearing again and again in stories tied to powerful, controversial figures? To understand the intrigue, some observers rewind even further to New York in 2013. According to multiple accounts, Meghan was already present in elite private gatherings there. These were not acting auditions or casual networking events. They were invitation-only salons where media executives, political operatives, wealthy donors, and prominent activists exchanged ideas and influence. At the time, figures like Harvey Weinstein still dominated these spaces. Those who attended weren't passing through. They were building relationships. Then came 2014, another moment that raised eyebrows. Meghan appeared at a public question-and-answer session in Ukraine connected to groups with links to Clinton-aligned organizations. This was before her role on Suits reached peak visibility and well before any public association with Prince Harry. Yet she was already engaging in spaces usually reserved for seasoned political and philanthropic insiders. To critics, it suggested early access to power. To supporters, it showed ambition and curiosity. Either way, it stood out. The controversy deepened when allegations involving Ghislaine Maxwell resurfaced in public discussion. According to claims attributed to her, Epstein's money flowed into major global humanitarian efforts, including initiatives tied to the Clintons. These claims remain contested, but their existence fuels speculation. If questionable wealth circulated through respected philanthropic channels, then influence, introductions, and access may have traveled alongside it. Placed against that backdrop, Meghan's swift entry into elite humanitarian and political spaces after Istanbul seemed less surprising to some insiders. Doors that rarely open appeared to swing wide. Invitations came quickly. Platforms expanded. Her proximity to Prince Harry soon followed, reinforcing the idea that the groundwork had been laid long before the public love story began. None of this proves a single hidden hand pulling strings. But to those familiar with elite social networks, the pattern feels familiar. Power rarely moves randomly. It flows through relationships, recommendations, and carefully managed access. From that perspective, Meghan's rise looks less like sudden luck and more like a perfectly timed entry into a system that rewards preparation. The lingering question remains the same, and it refuses to fade. In a world where influence is currency, and access is everything, who opened the doors, and who decided it was her time to walk through them? How has Meghan been able to navigate her life without being haunted by her past? Could she have had some sort of protection? Let's find out. Guardians and gateways. As Meghan entered royal life, her public image appeared polished, confident, and untouchable. While the world saw smooth success, palace insiders whispered about an unseen protection surrounding her. Even when her acting career slowed, she never seemed vulnerable or lost, as if quiet support always kept her moving forward. Some observers claim this protection predated her marriage into royalty. Rumors within elite and legal circles point to unresolved questions linked to the Maxwell case, especially sealed and redacted details. The suggestion is not that Meghan is being shielded, but that influential figures who allegedly helped advance her early path are the ones being protected. Insiders speculate that if compelled to testify, she could reveal not only experiences, but names far more powerful than her public resume implies. These unproven theories are used to explain her rapid rise into royal status, her instant global humanitarian image, and the unexpected allies who continue to defend her. Among elite watchers, she is portrayed as someone who knows too much, whose silence carries value. This silence becomes risky power. Within the royal family, this unease allegedly ran deepest with Prince William. Known as a guardian of the monarchy's future, he is described by sources as deeply cautious about anything that could reopen old wounds or spark fresh scandals. Long before family disagreements spilled into public view, rumors suggest he firmly opposed any return of Harry and Meghan to the royal fold. To him, it was not about personal dislike, but about risk. Allowing them back, he allegedly feared, could invite questions better left unanswered. One story often repeated involves a tense moment at Balmoral. When Prince Andrew reportedly sought a visible role at a church event, William is said to have drawn a hard line, offering a blunt choice: Andrew's presence or his own. Andrew withdrew. Those who tell this story insist it was not about pride or rivalry. They say William understood that even indirect links to the Epstein-Maxwell world, however distant or unproven, could crack open sealed histories and threaten the stability of the crown itself. Seen through this lens, William's ongoing criticism in the press takes on a different meaning. Supporters argue it is not fueled by family drama, but by a firm refusal to reintroduce figures perceived as magnets for controversy. In their view, he was not guarding his ego, but the long-term survival of the institution he is destined to lead. Then comes the most intriguing piece of the puzzle, the detail that ties the entire story together. It does not unfold in a courtroom or a palace, but on a luxury yacht drifting across clear blue water, years before Meghan became famous. People from old social circles describe this yacht as a strange crossroads, where wealthy power brokers and ambitious newcomers mingled freely. Deals were discussed, futures reshaped, and lives quietly redirected in the space of a single evening. Whether Meghan was invited by design, placed there deliberately, or simply arrived by chance remains unclear. What is clear, according to these accounts, is that the yacht was not the end of anything. It was the beginning. From that moment, her path allegedly widened, leading through exclusive New York gatherings, shadowy London networks, lavish events in Istanbul, and eventually into the life of a prince who may never have seen the full picture. At the center of all this speculation sit the mysterious 12 hours linked to Maxwell. Hours said to contain names, dates, and connections that could map Meghan's rise from anonymity to influence. These secrets, if they exist, are not described as evidence of a mistake, but of a system designed to lift and protect its own. Until more is known, the story hangs unresolved, like the opening chapter of a thriller. It promises not an ending, but a spark, the sense that the real beginning is still hidden, waiting to be uncovered, slowly, breath by breath. Why is Maxwell just speaking up now? How has she been involved in the criminal cases? Let's dig into the details of the forgotten investigations that preceded the Epstein scandal. The first warning signs. Years before Jeffrey Epstein became a global scandal, a quieter investigation was already taking shape in Palm Beach. In 2001, local police began examining disturbing reports connected not directly to Epstein, but to his close associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. College students from a nearby campus told officers they had been approached with unusually lucrative job offers to work at Epstein's home. According to a later released U.S. Department of Justice report, Maxwell allegedly recruited young women for what were described as simple office duties, such as answering phones and handling paperwork. The pay, around $200 per day, stood out as unusually high for basic administrative work. Despite these reports, police noted uncertainty about what actually occurred inside the residence, which was described as closed, private, and difficult to observe. Several students said they were contacted by an English woman identifying herself as Maxwell, who specified she wanted young, beautiful, unmarried women. One student recalled phone calls that felt abnormal, involving men coordinating the arrival of specific girls, suggesting arrangements that sounded less like employment scheduling, resembling appointments. Other students shared similar discomfort. They said Epstein and Maxwell kept their activities vague and avoided giving clear explanations. At least 2 young women went further, reporting that Epstein had touched them in ways that made them feel uneasy and violated. While these complaints did not immediately lead to criminal charges, they painted a disturbing picture of blurred boundaries and inappropriate behavior. The students also told police that Maxwell appeared eager to build a large list of girls who could be called in at short notice. This insistence on availability struck officers as unusual, especially for what was supposedly office work. Still, the investigation faced obstacles. Some of the students became hard to reach, and follow-up interviews proved difficult. Despite these challenges, police continued digging. Officers searched trash taken from the residence and found materials that deepened their concerns. Among the discarded items were massage advertisements, handwritten lists of women with their ages and physical descriptions, and business records tied to both Epstein and Maxwell. While none of these items alone proved a crime, together they came forward with stories of strange scenes at the house. They described seeing topless women near the pool and said massages seemed to be a regular occurrence. Even so, many stressed that they had not personally witnessed acts they could clearly identify as illegal. The line between what felt wrong and what could be proven remained frustratingly thin. In April 2002, after months of inquiry, Palm Beach police closed the case. Their conclusion was blunt. They had not detected a crime that could be charged at that time. For years afterward, the early investigation faded into obscurity, largely forgotten by the public. That silence ended in 2005 when a new and far more serious report surfaced. This time, the allegation involved a 14-year-old girl. The claim reopened old questions and sparked broader investigations that would eventually draw national attention. What followed exposed a long trail of missed opportunities and controversial decisions. In 2007, Epstein reached a highly criticized non-prosecution agreement that allowed him to avoid federal charges. He served just 13 months in jail, a sentence many later described as shockingly lenient. In 2019, Federal prosecutors indicted him again, but the case never reached trial due to his death while in custody. Maxwell's fate unfolded differently. Arrested in 2020, she was tried and convicted in 2021 on multiple charges related to sex trafficking. Today, she is serving a 20-year prison sentence. Looking back, the 2001 police report now reads less like a dead-end inquiry and more like the opening chapter of a story the world would come to regret not taking seriously sooner. So what do you think about Maxwell's revelation? Do you think Meghan can get out of this unscathed? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.